Hi, Mr. Mooly. Welcome to the PowerTalk Show. It's a great pleasure to have you on our podcast. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Before we begin our conversation further, I would like you to introduce yourself and Better Software to our audience.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. Mooly Beeri. I've been in the software business for 25 plus years. My formal education after studies is mainly from a few startups, mainly in the medical domain, and mostly from Microsoft, where I spent many years, almost 10 years. I then switched to work for Philips, where I built the first software center of excellence for the corporate for Philips and developed a methodology which was later rebranded as the Better Software methodology. And so I was running the center of excellence, deploying the methodology across the entire enterprise, and later created my own company and is using the same methodology with many other companies. For instance, moved to work in automotive, and I spent almost 4 years as the head of software transformation in a large automotive company called Aptiv, where I deployed the same methodology, the better software methodology. And we are now delivering the same methodology into companies like Roche in healthcare, into companies like Ambition, Mercedes. We have pilots going on with other large companies. And so there are thousands or maybe tens of thousands of individuals using this platform and framework on daily basis. So essentially, my work for the past 10 plus years is all about software excellence.
Wonderful, wonderful. So as I was going through your website, Better Software as well, and I understood like you guys help in Better Software helps in optimizing the software development life cycle. Can you just elaborate more about what it does and how you guys do it?
Yeah, sure. So the I would maybe start by looking at the process of building software. Every company, of course, is unique. They have their own products, their own offering. But when it comes to building software, companies are not that unique. They all go through a similar process of producing software. Think about building houses. Every house is unique. Every house looks different, has a different composition in terms of rooms and architecture and so on. But the process of building houses is more or less the same. You collect some requirements, you go to an architect, you build a plan, you collect the materials, you plan the construction, you dig a hole in the ground, you build foundations, then you start building the house and so on. So the process of building the house is more or less the same, even though every house is different. And so similarly, in the software domain, the process of creating software is very much similar in many companies. And even though the resulting software is different. And when you look at this process, many companies are focused more on the pace of delivering features to the market, and they don't see the overall effectiveness of their software development lifecycle and how well they produce software. So essentially, the motivation for us to start this business was going through different teams and understanding each of these teams have their own challenge in producing software. Some are struggling with the actual code quality, writing code, but some are struggling on gathering requirements. Some are struggling on continuous integration and so on. And it's very difficult for engineering managers, given the complexity of software, to understand where are the weak spots and where investments are needed. And so what we do is basically give visibility to engineering managers on where the weak spots are, and then we help them improve on those weak spots. So we always say we have two types of services. The first is we give you a flashlight, a magnifying glass. We give you a heat map, a way of seeing clearly in one view where your weak spots are in the overall development life cycle. And after that, we will also guide you in improving the weak spots. So you're basically always sure you are working on improving the weakest link in your entire ecosystem.
Understood. Understood. So, Mr. Booley, now AI platforms, there are many AI platforms that have come up who are doing something like writing the same code, that whatever code that is required for the software. Are you somehow incorporating AI into your platform into the future? And how will that help industry like yours or developers who are working on the software development?
Yeah, so there's definitely a trend around using AI to write code, and some big players are trying to promote their tool set. We have been working with several companies that are piloting with these type of tools. So far, we haven't seen huge success around using these tools to write code. The tools are as good as the input you give them. And so if you want the AI agent to generate high quality code, you have to spend a lot of effort on giving it the right prompt. And this prompt is tied to your requirements. In other words, you have to specify the requirements in a way that the AI platform understands what you need and generates the right code. So,
Understood.
so I think there is still quite a long way to go before we will see actual code being generated. Well, we can see code generated today, but to a large extent, there are several research that were published around the code generated by the current platforms is actually more cumbersome, um, to some extent longer and harder to maintain. And so I think we still need to see another level of maturity in these tools before they can start really replacing developers as the belief says. But maybe just one more thing on that. The AI tools are focusing on code generation,
Mhm.
and we in Better Software, we focus on the entire software development lifecycle, which starts way earlier than writing the code. So this is about how do you collect your requirements? How do you perform your design? How do you translate your design into software requirements? And then things that are right now well beyond the phases where AI gets involved. And this is how well do you do your code review? How well do you do your integration and so on? And so the visibility you get across the entire software development lifecycle extends the focus on generating the code or just focus on code quality.
Absolutely. Understood. So, is there any particular industry vertical that is more beneficial for better software, or you work across all industry verticals and you can help any industry to build their own software?
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of experience and success with healthcare and with automotive, but I think this is more incidental as to the opportunities that we had, and not specifically because of the type of solution that we have. So maybe I can go back to the origin of this framework. I needed to develop a framework that will assess the quality of software being done for Philips, where in Philips there were teams producing software that goes into an espresso machine, and teams producing software that goes into MRI scanners, CT scanners, and even pieces of software that run entire hospitals. And so we had to come up with some framework that can be technology agnostic and also can somehow be size or complexity agnostic, because we had to give the guys writing the software for the espresso machine help, as well as the guys writing software that runs entire hospitals. And so the framework that we have is, on the one hand, it's very technical, but it is technology agnostic. So we don't really care what type of software you build. And it just goes back to my initial example around buildings. We don't care if you're building a hotel or you're building an apartment house or you're building your beach house. The process of building will always be the same. And so we are also seeing some success now with the financial sector, and we have some proof of concepts in play in the retail industry as well. So
Understood. Thank you. Understood. So, is there any success story that you would like to share among what currently you have built for your existing clients? How it impacted their performance, and how did it turn around that life cycle from, say, 6 months to 3 months, although it might be more than 6 months, but if you can share any such success story.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I can I can describe a little bit the work that we did in Aptiv, which is quite a large automotive player. So one of the items we identified working with Aptiv is a gap around CI/CD, continuous integration, where they had many different implementations of their CI/CD pipelines, leading to very large inefficiencies. And I'm talking about more than 100 different implementations. And one of the things we do is, because we work with all the teams, it's very easy to identify when you have a replication of knowledge instead of consolidation. And so we identified this, and we helped the company drive the strategy of a single continuous integration platform for their entire project suite. And we led the development of that combined platform, and the result was that basically in about 1 year, we managed to move the entire company to use a single CI/CD platform and stop maintaining 100 different suboptimal solutions, and actually focus the resources on more productive work.
Wow.
Another example I can give is from another client. I will not disclose the name, but again, quite a large client, where we part of the work we did was to help them build a very extensive merge gates, so pieces of infrastructure that help validate changes before they reach the master branch. And so basically, the measurement we used was the amount of defects that this company generated on PI by PI. And after working with them for a few months, we were able to show a reduction of 15% in the number of defects generated for the entire company. And that was a reduction in absolute numbers of probably close to 20 to 30,000 defects less than they were experiencing on a regular basis. And all of these defects were basically detected now upstream before they were introduced into the main branches and
Mhm.
before the entire development community started paying the toll of these defects that are circulating around. So these are just a couple of examples. Of course, we have
Wow.
many.
I believe you might have many other success stories as well. But yes, thank you so much for sharing with us. So as we discussed AI, what are the emerging trends that you see in your space, in the software development space? And is there anything that you are much excited to incorporate into your current system in better software?
Yeah, I think the in our uh, domain, the main players, if you will, are um, frameworks like Agile, like Safe Agile, and so on. And I see a slow disillusionment from these frameworks. And I would say in our industry, the slow return into the nature of true agility and going back to working at a team level and making sure every team gets better over time. I mean, the Agile started as a good idea and turned into this myth of the ability to deliver fast features into the world. And now many organizations, too many organizations, are stuck in this cycle of sprint after sprint, more features, more features, more features. And the essence of Agile is forgotten. The essence of Agile was never about speed. It was always about iterate quickly so you can learn, you can improve, and you can produce something better the next time around. And
Yes.
this is basically what we're preaching. And right now we see more and more adoption of that concept, and more companies start focusing on how can we improve our staff instead of just rushing from one sprint to another, delivering more and more features and burning our reputation on the one hand because we deliver suboptimal features, and also burning our staff because people get burned when they don't grow personally. They don't feel the company is investing in their future, and they basically don't learn anything. Um, and so I think in our case, the trend is more or less going back to basics. Yeah, going back to the basics of build a software team and make sure through iterations it gets better over time.
Wow. Going back to square one and then starting from scratch. So, is this how do you, whenever there is a client who you want to onboard, what is your approach towards your initial conversation? How do you get on board, and how do you begin, building up them the software, the desired software that they are looking forward to?
So when we engage with new clients, the first thing we do is a discovery process. So we
Mhm.
basically go through a series of long deep dives, and we try to understand the customer specific environment and the customer-specific challenges. And we finish that initial scan by giving the client a heat map of their entire software development lifecycle with our observations of the areas that are currently the most painful for that client. And then we also give the client a recommendation on how they should improve those deficiencies. And we basically give clients three options. One is, please look at our insights. And the first option, something that happens sometimes, they look at these insights and they say, well, we don't agree. We think you didn't understand our unique challenge, and so we don't buy into your analysis. This is usually the rare case. What happens sometimes is that customers will look at the report, the heat map, and will say, good insights, we recognize many of these challenges. We think we know how to fix those on our own. So thank you for the analysis. We will take this from here, and maybe we'll come back to you in a year or so and ask you to take a look again at where we are. In most cases, after we present the findings, the customers are agree with the findings, and they're asking us to drive the improvement through the organization. So, for instance, many years ago, the first time we built this framework, I did a first scan across all the divisions in Philips, and I presented the outcome to the Philips CTO at that time. And he looked at it and discussed with his staff, and they agreed the insights were valid and decided to take the entire corporate through a 3-year journey of improving 10 points every year on the effectiveness scale that we were using. Similarly, in Aptiv, I did a first scan, I think it was end of 2020, presented it to the CEO and CTO, and the same thing happened. They looked at it, they understood, they realized their organization is at a certain rating, and decided to take the organization through a 3-year improvement journey of 10 points of effectiveness every year. And in some cases, clients have looked at it and said, yeah, there's good insights, but we think we know how to improve these things on our own. And so they accepted our insights and continued the improvement journey on their own, which is perfectly fine.
Is this because they might have an in-house team who is working on the software, and once they have the information, they can rework on that?
Yeah, everyone is always improving. Everyone always has plans to improve. If you, I've never met, well, never is a harsh word, but it's rare that you meet a software person who says, we're perfect, there's nothing for us to do. They always have a plan on what needs to do, what needs to happen, and what needs to improve. The two pieces, the missing pieces that we provide, one is we help the team understand where are the actual pain points. So we can say, if you have just one thing you can do in the next PI or the next iteration, you have to fix your test automation. You have to select a subset of tests which is critical and run it in your CI pipeline. You have to start using properly your static analysis analyzer and so on. So we give them clear prioritization as to where to invest. And second is that we have a lot of experience with many different software teams, and so we can easily tell them how to implement those specific improvements. So we are basically an accelerator to the improvement process. There's nothing the teams can't do on their own, but usually when they work with us, I would say they improve probably at a factor of 10 faster compared to what they would be able to do on their own.
So many CTOs who are watching after this podcast, they might actually turn back and see if they know everything, but still they don't know few things that can be actually optimized using better software.
I've never met someone who knows everything, and I actually I'm concerned when I meet someone who says we know it. When you know everything, you can't learn anything, right? The only way for you to learn is to admit that there are things you don't know. And so
Absolutely.
I'm always in the uh, one of the reasons I like working with new teams, and it's actually what's driving most of my personal enjoyment from this work, is that every day I get to spend time with a new team, and they have a fresh challenge which I haven't thought of, and they
Yes.
have different perspective and different constraints, and so um, we if you look at standard or traditional consulting, if you engage with a McKinsey or Deloitte or what have you, you will
Mm.
get a top-down approach, top-down process, which is then applied to all teams in the organization. And it usually doesn't succeed because it's one solution that is supposed to fit everyone, and then it breaks down when you try to adapt it to every team's specific needs. Um, we work with every team, and every team needs slightly different help in their optimization. Um, it's like trying to get in shape. You can download from the internet some get in shape plan, and it will say do 10 push-ups and then do 10 pull-ups and good luck. But then you can also go to a personal trainer who can diagnose your specific state and say, well, for you, you need to jog 20 minutes a day and then do only push-ups. So I'm just making this up, of course. But um, so this makes it interesting for us to be able to tailor the improvement for each team's individual state.
Yes.
And this also helps the teams accept these type of improvements because they definitely feel this is a good fit for their specific state in life.
Understood. I completely understand. So speaking of new things, this brings us to a last question. What would be your approach, or what would be your advice to the new entrepreneurs who are working in your field, or pursuing students or graduates or freshers who are from the software development field trying to pursue a career in software development? What would be your advice, and how would you guide them for their future?
Well, different advice for entrepreneurs and for people who are trying
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
to create a career for themselves in the software world. Um, for people who are interested in software as a profession, my
Mhm.
advice would be at all costs spend some time, a year, 2 years or so, in a company that specializes in producing software. So don't start your career with a general purpose company that also does software because everyone is dependent on software. Go to a company that is a purely software house because
Understood.
that will teach you very well how software is being manufactured. You will be knowledgeable in this process and you can apply it in every context.
Understood. Wonderful.
When it
I,
comes to entrepreneurs, it's difficult to come up with a good advice, but maybe just a generic one. Try to choose one thing and be really, really excellent at this one thing. Whether it's a good idea or not, you will find out in a while, but don't be like I'm an entrepreneur, and so I can do whatever you want me to do. If you want me to do front end, I can be great in front end. You want back end, you want app development, you want a website, you want lead generation. I can do everything, and I'm really great at it. That's not a good way of building your business. You should focus on the one thing you think differentiates you from the rest, and do this really, really well until you stand out from the crowd, or until you realize it's not enough, and then you move to um, the next idea. Yeah,
wow, that's some great advice, Mr. Mugli, for entrepreneurs as well as for pursuing graduates or people who are already there in the space. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mugli, for today's podcast. Thank you so much. I hope our audience has taken up for your words and have enjoyed watching your podcast.
I hope so too. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you so much.